who are the traditional owners of this country and is being held and recognise their continuing connection to the land, water, sea and sky and culture. We pay our respects to all these people and their elders past, present and emerging. In accordance with Regulation 141 of 14I and 14J of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996, notice is given that this meeting is being video and audio recorded to facilitate community participation and for minute-taking purposes. By being present at the meeting, members of the public consent to their possibility that their image and voice may be recorded. Audio recordings are published on the Council website following the meeting and may be released upon request to third parties. Members of the public are reminded that in accordance with Section 6.16 of the Shire of York Local Government Council Meetings Local Law 2016, nobody shall use any visual or audio recording device or instrument to record the proceedings of Council without the written permission of the presiding member. I wish to draw attention to the disclaimer notice contained within the agenda documents and advise that members of the public that any decisions made at this meeting today can be revoked in accordance with Regulation 10 of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996. Therefore, members of the public should not rely on any decisions until formal notification in writing from the Shire has been received. Any plans or documents in agendas and minutes may be subject to copyright. The express permission of the copyright owner must be obtained before copying any copyright material. Attendance at the electronic meeting in accordance with Regulation 14C of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996, the Shire President may authorise the attendance of Councillor Warnick and Mr Justin Lee via electronic means. Having given consideration to the location from which Councillor Warnick and Mr Justin Lee is attending the meeting and the equipment used to attend the meeting, confirming that they are suitable to enable effective engagement in deliberations and communications and ensuring confidentiality. There are no changes to standing orders. No announcement of visitors. Declarations of proximity interest. No one's any nil. Declarations of financial interest. Nil. Disclosures of interest that may affect impartiality. Nil. Attendance, there's myself, Kevin Trent, Shire President, Councillor Dennis Warnick by electronic means, Councillor Peter Wright, Mr Justin Lee via electronic means and Ms Shona Zuldorf. Staff, Mr Lyndon Mellor, the Acting CEO, Selena Behan, the Executive Manager, Corporate and Community Services, Ms Rebecca Palumbo, Acting Executive Manager, Infrastructure and Development Services, and Ms Vanessa Green, Council and Executive Support Officer. We have apologies from Mr Chris Linnell, who's on leave. Leave of absence previously approved. There's no nil. The number of people in the gallery, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll record that, please. And questions from previous meetings. This is a response to a previous question taken on notice. Mrs Good has asked a question, which I won't read, it's in the agenda, and the response has been provided by myself. I just want to add that the use of that track is governed by the Association of Motorbike Riders. Council have to allow them to control who comes and who goes. Public question time commenced at 3:06 p.m. Anyone have any public questions? You're up first. If you'd like to move to the microphone and give us your name, address, and then ask your question, please.
My name is Kara Marwick. These two questions that I'm about to ask are from Shana Hilda, 31 Langford Road, York. She was going to come tonight, but she had an episode due to her vaccine injuries last night. So she pulled out and didn't come and ask me if I could read them. Is that all right? Okay, so if you could just repeat that name and address of the person who's... Hilda, 31 Langford Road, York. Table 1 in preparation and the review of bank reconciliation. My question, what is the long-standing discrepancy and the reason for it to take so long to complete? Mr. Mellor, would you like to answer the question, or...?
Thank you. Through the Chair, I'm going to hand over to the Executive Manager for Corporate and Community Services.
Thank you. Through the Chair, the bank reconciliations have a number of unreconciled items, which basically means they've come through in a manner in the bank statements that don't necessarily match how they represent in the accounts. So there are a number of items which can't be just matched and then removed as reconciled. So there are a number of items there. The reason that they haven't, and many of them are historical as well, so they've been over several years not been reconciled. So we have worked very hard to get them up to date, so they're up to date as per last financial year. There are still some items that can't be matched, so we're working with our financial advisors how we record them into the accounts. That will actually probably result in a net positive position because it's more money that needs to be reconciled, recognised into the accounts than we actually have currently. We'll get how we tackle that for the end of the financial year, and we've been... So we are continuing to reconcile the daily, we do it weekly, transactions to work out the current ones to make sure they are still matching again. So that work's being done as well. Once we've got how we tackle that final position, we'll add that into the work that we're already doing as well, and we'll be up to date by that. But the reason it's taken so long is just particularly in the financial services area was we just ran out of staff for several years. So we had new people transitioning in and out of those roles. We were training them up. They started doing the work. They didn't necessarily complete it. They moved on. We got other ones. So now we've got a stable workforce. We've been able to complete that work. Can I ask another question on behalf of Shana?
You may.
Thank you. In Table 1, in preparation and review of property, plant and equipment reconciliation, my question is, why is there no register on the Shire computer to register every item the Shire owns?
Through the Chair, I'll hand over to the Executive as well.
There is a register for all our items that actually match an asset register. So the asset value for the Shire is over $5,000. We keep all of those actually recognised. What we do have is some items that are long-standing and probably over time, and some of them are like 10 years old, that perhaps weren't taken off when they were decommissioned. So we are finishing reconciling that. We also have items that are under the $5,000. We keep a portable and attractive assets register where we do track those, and anything that's immaterial we don't, such as consumables and stationery.
So can I just ask, is that for the public? Can the public access all that on the computer, on the website? No. Thank you.
We'll just ask if anyone else has got any questions.
Sorry?
Yes, if you...
Yeah, hi, my name's Paul. I'm also asking questions on behalf of someone else who can't make it today.
Okay, if we could have their name and address, and your name and address.
Yeah, my name is Paul Good, and 37 Prunster Road, York, and asking questions on behalf of Mrs M. Good, with the same address. Just referring to the public question taken on notice at the previous meeting, dated 9th of December 2024. Question 2 directed to the presiding member, and the response given in today's Shire York Audit and Risk Committee meeting agenda, although it wasn't read out. So the question is to the presiding member of the Audit and Risk Committee, Councillor Trent. Can you please confirm that this response was provided by you, firstly?
It was framed around what I had said.
Okay, well, part B to that question then is, can you please explain why it does not address the question asked and the significant similarity matched to the answer provided by the CEO to public question time, question number 16 in the OCM minutes dated the 17th of December 2024?
Without having a look at that question raised in December, I'd have to coordinate that answer and get back to you, Mr. Good.
Thank you. Question 2, again to presiding member, Councillor Trent. Can you please confirm that the Audit and Risk Committee has received a risk assessment report and is aware of a risk register, items pertaining to significant public health risks, existing and new, associated with the upgrades to the York ORV area in alignment with policy G19, risk assessment and management, and Shire of York risk management framework?
Mr. CEO, you add any light to that?
Thank you for the question. So the risk assessment that was done as part of the project's works was done within the project management plan, and that has been reviewed by the administration. The organisational risks have been presented to the Audit and Risk Committee, which have been reviewed, which this facility falls under. I see the response over there.
Hello, my name is Shona. I'm an external member of Audit and Risk, so I have no links to the area, and I'm on a few other committees as well. So if it would be helpful, our role is to ensure good governance, and there's certain things that you need to do. One of them is separation between operational and strategic, and it's not appropriate. So we need to oversight, we need to ensure good governance, but we also need to respect the boundaries between operational and strategic. Local government is a bit special because they're governed by a whole range of legislation and regulations that can be quite restrictive on us. But one of the things that good governance says is that we oversight strategic risks. Sorry, council owns strategic risks. Operational risks are owned by the organisation. Now, we ensure good governance by reviewing those risks in the ratings and ensuring that they are being addressed appropriately. But they are actually owned by the CEO, not by this committee. So under governance principles, we only do high risks in this committee for operational, not general risks. I just think it's important that we understand what those boundaries are and that they're not being imposed on you, that it's just that's how this committee operates. And if we were to go into very operational issues, then it would be appropriate for an oversight body to say you need to step back. So we're all governed by boundaries.
And that applies across every local government in Western Australia. We're all under the same regulations. We just don't get into operational areas.
This committee deals with high risks, yes, and we oversight them, and we endorse we oversight the responses and endorse them. So if this committee says these are the risks, the operational risks have been reported to us in those categories, and we endorse them, then we are responsible for the decisions that we make, and that is the collective decision of the committee. But they are dealt with appropriately according to a framework that's been developed quite rigorously over the last few years, and we've certainly increased our our scrutiny in risk, because that's an area that needs developing in local government, and we've spent a lot of time and effort on that, and management has been improving significantly over the last couple of years around how they report it, how they record it, and how they report it up.
Okay, now, anyone else a question? We've only got 1 more minute unless we decide to give an extension. So if you'd like to start.
I've got more than one question. Okay.
Or maybe if we determine we'd have a 5-minute spell. Move, Councillor Wright.
I'd like to know that they're relevant, because at the moment both
Are they?
operational and not matters that can be dealt with by this committee.
So are they operational issues or
They're
issues
relevant to the audit and risk register.
and the question is,
Okay. Diane Buckley, 29 Cardwell Road. Following reviewing the audit and risk register, the considerable amount of entries on there, I was very surprised. Who was responsible for managing the SHAR accounts and allowed them to be neglected to the point where they weren't completed in a timely manner?
I think that'd be an operational one, but Mr. Acting CEO, if you could.
I was actually going to hand over to Shona. She wants to answer that one.
So part of the oversight is financials. We have internal audit. We also have external audit that is signed off by the Office of Auditor General. So all local governments have an external audit to ensure that your financial practices, etc., are appropriate and meet the standards. We also, every 3 years, every year we have the Regulation 17 review around compliance, and every 3 years you have to have a Regulation 5 review, which is a very detailed analysis of all your financials, your systems, etc., to detect if everything is being done appropriately. There was 1 year where a number of findings were made which were not necessarily unanimously supported by the committee, and what we did was we asked management to do a risk assessment on all of those and to advise the committee on how they're being addressed and what the timeframes are, and we have another report on that tonight. So we took all those findings seriously, and we have asked for those to be tracked, and they get reported to us every quarter.
So just to clarify, who is actually responsible for managing the SHAR accounts?
How is that relevant for this committee? Sorry, I'm not entirely sure how that question relates.
Well, I'm wondering who's overseeing, who's making sure that this doesn't happen again?
CEO.
Essentially, that responsibility falls to the CEO to oversee the accounts. We have got relevant staff that do the work of monitoring and managing them, and that's why we also bring them to audit and risk and to council to review on regular occurrences as well.
Okay.
So that's going to conclude question time.
I've actually got another question.
Well, we need an extension then. That's moved, seconded.
Councillor Wright seconds it.
Are all those in favour then? You may ask your question.
Okay. What are the qualifications of the current finance manager, Cody Redmond? Is he a fully qualified accountant?
Mr. CEO.
I don't think that's relevant to this this audit and risk committee. Thank you.
Okay.
We are not to get into operations. If we do that, then there can be findings against us in terms of breaches of standards. We do strategic, we do audit and risk. That is not appropriate for us to get into operations. We oversight them, we don't get involved in them. And that's how, they are the regulations we operate under, and we are unable to digress from that. And I might say, I'm not sure that we should. Good governance is about separation and oversight.
How do
we can't provide the
How do we
answers.
find that information? How do we clarify that, you know, this isn't going to continue to happen and we have the right people in place?
CEO's role to employ qualified people. So that's, I'll conclude question time at 3:21, and we will move on to the next item, applications for leave of absence. There are nil. Any presentation? Nil. Confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. Moved Shana. Zuldorf. Seconded. Justin Lee. Thank you, Justin. Seconded. All those in favour then? Put your hand up, Justin. So, yep, thank you. It was carried 5-0. Announcements by the presiding member without discussion. I have none. Reports, the compliance, the annual compliance. Our officers report, compliance audit return for 2024. There's a recommendation there. Anyone have any queries as to the report? Shani?
Thank you. I note the high level of compliance. That's very good, and certainly in comparison with other larger local governments, that seems to be a high standard. So that's pleasing to see, given that I know resourcing is always a challenge. I did want to ask a question about page 19. So the local, is it local laws? Yes, local laws that were not published. I wondered if that was a resourcing issue, or is that something, and is that something that many small to medium-sized local governments struggle to achieve?
CEO?
Through the Chair, I'll hand over to the Executive Manager of Corporate and Community Services.
Thank you, through the Chair. So, yes, it's something. So, just for clarity, all our local laws are published on the website. We have the amended and original local laws available. So, there's nothing that's missing. They're just not consolidated. So, several years ago, local government reform was touted, and they suggested they'd be coming out with a range of model local laws. We have just for an example, it does take a lot of time and resourcing to actually undertake the consolidation of the local laws. We are just doing one local law now, which is the bushfire local law, which has been before council several times and is coming back again in March. It's taken approximately 2 years just to get this far. It takes a long time. Knowing that local government reform was going to suggest model local laws, and we know that they need to be concluded by the end of December 2026, we took a view that that probably wasn't a good use of resourcing, and that we would wait until then to actually conclude that. The department have not written to us to ask for any update to compliance and that, and we have been very clear about reporting that we are non-compliant in that, only that aspect of that. Yeah.
Thank you. That's all. So, anyone will move the recommendation? Shana Zuldorf. And Mr. Justin Lee seconds the proposition. I'll put the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. It's carried 5-0. Our risk management update as at March 2025. The recommendation is printed there. Anyone have any questions regarding the risk management? Shana Zuldorf.
Sorry. Okay, so I can see that things are continuing to evolve in terms of reporting on risk, which is helpful, because sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming with the amount of information. I always have a bit of an issue around, so there are some that are behind schedule. I always think, are the are the timeframes realistic given other competing timeframes? So it seems to be that they're low risk, and so I'm not so concerned if they're low risk and they're behind schedule. But yes, I always wonder if there's a better way you can do that that is a bit more meaningful. Because just because it's on the risk register doesn't always necessarily mean, as you say, it may be a risk that you make the decision to live with because other things are of a higher priority. So sometimes those dashboards aren't always as informative as they could be. Thank you.
The officers wish to comment on that, or the rest of the committee are satisfied? Councillor Wright.
This is Councillor Wright. We've got to remember where we've come from to be here. This is the thing. There was a lot of red down the page 4 years ago. And now we're doing things. We're trying to get it right. And we're working our way hard to do it. And that's what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
So someone want to move the recommendation? Councillor Wright.
Councillor Wright moves.
No hands on the screen. Councillor Shona. Councillor, you're going to have to join us, Shona. Mrs. Zeldorf. No further question. I'll put the debate, the recommendation. Or the motion. All those in favour. That's carried 5-0. Update on findings identified during the 22-23 and the 23-24 audits. The recommendation is there. Anyone have any questions, queries? Yes?
Thank you. This is the document I was referring to earlier about the response to the findings, and that to assure the public this committee was taking them with due gravity, that and to demonstrate that they have all been individually reviewed and monitored on a regular basis. So this is an update on those findings. I'm pleased to see significant progress. The one on bank reconciliations and division of responsibility, no, that's timing the bank reconciliations, it's not the separation of duties, is it? And that's been an ongoing issue. But if you look at most of those, they have been addressed, and perhaps we can, with the committee's approval, we can take them off the list so that we can see what's left with the next meeting. But it looks like within the 12 months we will have responded to each of those.
Okay, so you're suggesting we remove those ones that have slid off the list, as it were?
The ones that are completed, I think we maybe remove those so we can actually see what we've got left.
Yeah, so would you...
And it seems to me there's really there's one or two where the committee has accepted the risk and we're letting it sit, and then a couple, such as bank reconciliations, which absolutely need to be addressed. But I think it'll focus us better if we just have the ones that need to be done. But that's just my suggestion.
Okay, well, perhaps you might like to include that in your recommendation. So you're moving with that amendment?
No, I'm just moving.
Oh, right, just moving.
Administration's motion.
Okay. Seconding someone out there in... Mr. Lee is seconding. Any debate? I'll put the recommendation becoming a motion. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried 5-0. The next item is mid-year budget review, 24-25. The recommendation is there. There is a movement of some funds. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Wright, or you're wanting to move?
Yeah, I've got this is Councillor Wright here. Got a question. It's on the transfer of to reduce the reserve of $40,000 for the Pioneer Memorial Lodge, and I just wonder why that's the case.
CEO?
Through the chair, I'm going to hand over to the Executive Manager of Corporate and Community Services. Thank you.
Through the chair, the initial budget was set up. You remember that we have works underway for electrical upgrades at Pioneer Memorial Lodge. We're waiting on Western Power upgrades to do those. We have an amount on budget of $22,500 to support that now. We had initially in the budget put $60,000 towards putting into the reserve should that work be done. That was coming out of municipal funds. We know that work is not going to happen this financial year due to Western Power delays. We are proposing to still put $20,000 towards that for next year. We will make some budget allowances next year based on what that comes out at, and we are making the $40,000 of that 60. So some $20,000 still to go to the reserve, $40,000 to be put back into the budget to fund other works that we can actually achieve in this financial year.
Councillor Wright,
further
question?
Another question. Are you aware that there is a community group, with the help of the Bendigo Bank, have provided money towards the role of getting that done this year? Are you aware also that we're working politically to be able to get this done this year too? So if that's the case, can money then be transferred back into that account this coming financial year?
CEO?
Over to the Executive Manager.
Thank you. Through the chair, yes, we can make adjustments throughout the year. This is not the only opportunity to do that. We would be thrilled if we could achieve that this year. At this point, Western Power are indicating they cannot.
The whole process is relying on Western Power, and at the moment they're well behind their list of works, so there's no sense keeping the money for that project on the item on the budget.
Then can I have asked another question that was a long-term one, is that when the upgrade of the kitchen was done, it was $127,000, I believe. And the people in the community there at the nursing only wanted a stove that's worth $500 to be able to bake a cake or two. But now, with the new one they've got there, they can't use it. And that's a bit of a problem.
That sounds like a bit of an operational question to me. With kitchens these days, they've got to be built up to a standard, and we had to bring that whole kitchen up to standard. It wasn't just a case of a new stove. Shauna?
Thank you. In terms of mine actually related, I was going to ask about the Pioneer Lodge and I didn't quite understand what that was, but with your reserve funds, sorry, for my information, are they all statutory or not necessarily? So my understanding is we need to approve a transfer only for the statutory reserve funds, or do you go to council for all reserve funds transfers?
Through the chair, over to the Executive Manager.
So I believe you're correct in the statutory is the ones we need to work through. Most of our reserves aren't statutory. We're things that we have specifically decided to make visible in our accounts. As good practice, we try to go to council for all reserve changes, and we will be at department's recommendation, the OAG's recommendation and More Australia's recommendation. We'll be bringing a report to June, which will just mop up any end-of-year changes to reserves that are different to any budget or budget amendments that have been made throughout the year.
So I know that mid-year review is something new, I think, because this committee dealing with mid-year, or is it mid-year? My apologies. Just the one for long service leave. I don't recall having approved that previously, which is why I thought maybe. Yeah, it was a new thing.
CEO.
Through the chair over to the executive manager.
So it's historically we do long service leave transfers towards the end of the year. So we do keep a long service leave reserve, which when someone does take long service leave throughout the year, or we have someone who leaves and takes that with them, we make a transfer out of the long service leave review. But we don't do that till the end of the financial year normally. This year we've just had a few retirements or people leaving that have had they've been with the organisation for a very long time. They've got significant amounts of long service leave. So it was just necessary to effect that transfer earlier than you would normally see. But you're correct, we haven't done one as part of mid-year review previously.
Thank you for confirming my sympathy. That's appreciated. Look, just in terms of mid-year review and reviewing the numbers, they do look fine, but I do note the operating deficit. Those kinds of things are difficult in isolation, so I'm happy to sign off on the numbers today. I wondered if at some point, and potentially if we look at budget for next financial year, something that was a secular trend on operating revenue, expenses, profit, net profit, to kind of give us a sense, cash position, so we have a sense over a period of time, how are those numbers looking? Is there a trend there that we should be noting and addressing, as opposed to a one-off? Because a one-off is okay, but if it's a trend over 10 years, then it's concerning. So perhaps some contextual information might be helpful for next time, if that's all right. Thank you.
So you're happy?
Yeah.
Okay. Could we have a mover for this recommendation? Shana Zeldorf moving. Councillor Wright seconding.
Councillor Wright seconds.
I'll put the recommendation. All those as a motion. All those in favour? It's carried. 5-0. And next item, questions from members without notice. Nil. Business of an urgent nature introduced by decision of the meeting. There is nil. I'll close the meeting at 3:39 p.m.